Write your title here in capital letters. Her true story from Charleston. They blocked her dying calls, so she gave it all to a stranger. I was folding laundry on a Tuesday morning when I realized my daughter hadn't called me back in 3 weeks. That was the first crack. Not a loud one, not the kind that breaks a window, more like the kind you find in a ceiling after a long rain. You stare at it and think, how did I not notice that before? The laundry was towels, blue ones. I'd bought them at Target 5 years ago when my grandson was still small enough to sit in the cart. I remember folding the same towels the day after my husband brought home a new car without telling me. That was 2018. I should have known then, but I didn't. You never do. My name is Margaret. Most people call me Mags. I'm 69 years old. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, in a 3-bedroom house on a street called Heron Way. The house is paid off. My husband Bill and I bought it in 1992 for $118,000. Now it's worth almost $700,000. I know that because my daughter looked it up on Zillow last Thanksgiving while she was standing in my kitchen drinking my wine. She didn't think I saw her, but I saw her. I see everything. I just don't say anything until it's too late. That's my curse. I wait. I wait for people to do the right thing, and then I wait some more. And then one day I wake up, and the thing I was afraid of has already happened, and I'm just standing there holding a basket of warm towels like an idiot. The morning everything started to unravel was a Wednesday. I remember because Wednesday is the day I drive to the Piggly Wiggly for the senior discount, 10% off before noon. Bill used to make fun of me for it. He said, "Mags, you're not that old." But he's been dead for 2 years, so I take the discount. I take whatever I can get now. I was standing in the kitchen pouring my second cup of coffee when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my daughter Amanda. She lives in Mount Pleasant with her husband Derek and my 2 grandkids. Mason is 12, Chloe is 9. Amanda is 41. She was a beautiful baby. I remember the hospital she came out, looking around like she was already evaluating the room. That never changed. She has always been evaluating. Evaluating me, evaluating her father, evaluating every decision we ever made. The text said, "Mom, can you watch the kids Friday night? We have a thing." A thing. That was her language. A thing. Not a date night, not a dinner with friends. A thing. Like she was speaking in code to someone who didn't deserve the full sentence. I texted back, "Of course, sweetheart, what time?" She said 6, Derek will drop them off. I said, "I'll make pizza." She said, "Thanks, Mom." Then a heart emoji. Then nothing else. That was Wednesday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, I was at the kitchen table, balancing my checkbook. I still use paper. I know that makes me old, but I like the feel of the pen. I like seeing the numbers go down in my own handwriting. It makes the money feel real. Online banking feels like playing a video game. I need to know exactly what I have because no one else is going to keep track for me. My checking account had $4,700. My savings had $31,000. My IRA had just over $200. That was everything. Bill and I weren't rich, but we were fine. We planned well. He had a pension from the shipping company. Social Security came every month. The house was paid. I thought I was safe. I thought I had done everything right. That was my second mistake, thinking safety exists. On Thursday, I drove to the pharmacy to pick up my blood pressure medicine. The pharmacist is a young woman named Keisha. She always asks about my grandkids. She has a little boy named Marcus who just started kindergarten. I showed her a picture of Mason and Chloe from Easter. She said they're getting so big. I said too fast. She said that's what my mama says. I paid for the medicine, $23.50. I used my debit card. The machine asked if I wanted to tip. I said no. Keisha laughed. She knows I'm cheap. I'm not cheap. I'm careful. There's a difference. That night I couldn't sleep. That happens more now than it used to. Bill used to snore so loud I couldn't hear my own thoughts. Now the bedroom is silent, except for the ceiling fan and the occasional car on the street. I lie there and listen to the house settle. The wood groans, the pipes hum. Sometimes I swear I hear Bill's keys on the nightstand, but it's just the wind. I thought about Amanda. I thought about the way she looked at me last Thanksgiving when I mentioned updating my will. Her eyes got sharp, not sad, sharp, like a bird spotting something small and helpless on the ground. She said, "Mom, have you talked to a lawyer?" I said, "Not yet." She said, "You should." I said, "I will." Then Derek changed the subject. He said something about the football game, but I saw the look they exchanged. A quick one. A married couple look. The kind that says, "We'll talk about this later." I should have talked to the lawyer right then, but I didn't, because I didn't want to believe my own daughter was waiting for me to die. Friday came. I cleaned the house. I vacuumed the living room. I dusted the bookshelves. I bought frozen pizza and strawberries and whipped cream. The kids love strawberries with whipped cream. Mason eats his in a bowl. Chloe likes to dip each strawberry separately. Small things, the kind of details you only know when you've been a grandmother for 12 years. Derek dropped them off at 6:15. He didn't come inside. He just opened the back door of the SUV and let them out. Mason had his tablet. Chloe had her backpack. Derek waved from the driver's seat and said, "Thanks, Max." Then he drove away. I watched his taillights turn the corner and thought about how he used to call me Mom. That changed about 3 years ago. Now I'm Max, like a neighbor, like someone he doesn't owe anything to. The kids were fine. They ate pizza, they watched a movie. Chloe fell asleep on the couch at 9. Mason stayed up until 10 playing some game where you shoot people from a helicopter. I don't understand it, but I don't have to understand it. I just have to love him. That's the deal. That's the grandmother deal. Amanda was supposed to pick them up by 10:30. At 10:45, I texted her. "Running late?" She replied 30 minutes later. "Almost done, sorry." At 11:30, I called her. No answer. At midnight, I called Derek. No answer. The kids were both asleep now. Mason on the pull-out couch, Chloe curled up in my bed like she used to when she was tiny. I sat in the living room with the lamp on and waited. I have done a lot of waiting in my life. I waited for Bill to come home from work. I waited for Amanda to finish high school. I waited for my mother to die so I could finally breathe. I am good at waiting. But that night, something felt wrong. 1 in the morning. I called Amanda again. This time she answered. Her voice was thick, not sleepy, thick, the way voices get when you've been talking too loud, or drinking, or both. She said, "Mom, I'm so sorry. We lost track of time." I said, "Where are you?" She said, "We went to a bar in downtown. Derek's friend from work." "You left your children with me for 7 hours to go to a bar." She got quiet. Then she said, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. She showed up at 1:45. Derek was driving. He didn't get out of the car. Amanda came inside and kissed the kids on the foreheads and gathered their things. She looked messy. Her shirt was untucked. Her hair was flat on one side. She smelled like vodka and something sweet. I didn't say anything. I just helped her carry Chloe to the car. Chloe didn't even wake up. Amanda hugged me at the door. She said, "Thanks, Mom." I said, "You're welcome." She said, "I love you." I said, "I love you too." Then she left. I stood in the doorway and watched the SUV pull away. The house was so quiet after they left, the kind of quiet that feels like a held breath. I went to bed at 2:30. I didn't sleep. I lay there and thought about the word thing. They went to a thing. The thing was a bar. The thing was more important than picking up their own children. I told myself I was overreacting. I told myself young parents need a break. I told myself I was lucky they trusted me. I told myself a lot of things that weren't true. The next morning, I drove to church. I'm not as religious as I used to be. Bill was the churchgoer. He sat in the third row every Sunday and sang hymns like he meant them. I went because it made him happy. After he died, I kept going because I didn't know what else to do with Sunday mornings. Father Mike gives good sermons. Short. No hellfire. Just small lessons about being kind to each other. I sat in the back row. I didn't take communion. I just sat there and stared at the stained glass and tried to feel something other than tired. After church, I went to breakfast alone at a diner called The Biscuit. I've been going there for 15 years. The waitress is a woman named Patty. She knows my order. 2 eggs over easy, bacon crispy, white toast, coffee black. Patty is 52. She has 2 kids in college. Her husband left her for a woman he met at a gym. She told me that story 2 years ago while wiping down the counter. She said, "Mags, you can't trust anyone." I laughed, but I wasn't really laughing. That afternoon, I was in the garage looking for Christmas decorations. It was November, almost December. I wanted to get the lights up before my back started hurting. The garage is a disaster. Bill was the organizer. After he died, I just pushed everything into corners and closed the door. Boxes of his old tools, fishing poles, a broken lawnmower, his golf bag. I haven't touched any of it. I was moving a box of old photo albums when I found a manila envelope tucked behind a shelf. It wasn't mine. I knew that immediately. The handwriting on the front said property tax records. But it wasn't Bill's handwriting. It was Amanda's. I know her handwriting. She writes her A's like little triangles. I opened the envelope. Inside were papers, copies of deeds, copies of my deed, the deed to the house on Heron Way. My house.
Bill and my house. There was also a letter from a law firm I had never heard of, Hargrove and Associates. The letter was addressed to Derek. It said something about power of attorney and transfer of ownership upon death and living trust amendments. I didn't understand all of it, but I understood enough. They were trying to take my house, not after I died, before. I stood in the garage holding those papers for a long time. The garage was cold. The light above my head was flickering. I could hear a lawnmower somewhere down the street. Normal sounds, regular Saturday sounds. And I was standing there with my world cracked open in my hands. I read the letter again. It said that Amanda and Derek had initiated a quiet title action. That's what it's called. Quiet title. Like it's peaceful. Like it's nothing. It said they were claiming that Bill had promised them the house before he died, that there was a verbal agreement, that I was aware of it and had consented. None of that was true. Bill never said a word about it. I never consented to anything. They were lying. They put it in writing. They paid a lawyer to lie for them. I thought about calling Amanda right then. I thought about screaming at her. I thought about driving to Mount Pleasant and banging on her door and demanding an explanation. But I didn't, because I'm Margaret. I wait. I stood there and I waited for the rage to turn into something I could manage. It didn't. It just sat in my chest like a hot coal.
I took the envelope inside. I made tea. I sat at the kitchen table and read every page 3 times. The letter was dated August, 3 months ago. 3 months ago, Amanda was sitting in my kitchen, drinking my wine and looking up my house on Zillow. 3 months ago, she was telling me to update my will. She wasn't protecting me. She was checking her work. The quiet title action had not been filed yet. It was a draft, a plan. They were getting ready. They must have left the envelope at my house by accident. Maybe Derek brought it over when he dropped off the kids. Maybe it fell out of his bag. I don't know. But they forgot it, and I found it. That night, I didn't sleep again. I sat in Bill's recliner and stared at the television with the sound off. The news was on, then a football game, then an infomercial for a mop. I watched everything and nothing. My mind kept going back to the same question. Why? Why would she do this? I gave her everything. I paid for her college. I co-signed her first apartment. I bought her first car. I babysat her children for free for 12 years. I cooked for her. I cleaned for her. I held her when her dog died. I held her when she got her heart broken in high school. I held her when she gave birth to Mason, and the cord was wrapped around his neck, and she was so scared she couldn't breathe. I was there. I was always there. And now she was trying to take my house. On Monday, I called a lawyer. Her name is Carol. She's 62. She wears pantsuits and glasses on a chain. Her office is in a strip mall next to a Chinese restaurant. I found her through a friend from church. Carol listened to the whole story without interrupting. I showed her the papers. She read them slowly. Then she took off her glasses and looked at me. She said, "Margaret, this is serious." I said, "I know." She said, "They hired a lawyer, a real one. Hargrove has a reputation. He's aggressive. He goes after elderly people." I said, "I'm not elderly." She smiled. Not a happy smile, a sad one. She said, "You are exactly the kind of person he targets. People with assets, people who trust their families, people who don't check their mail closely." I asked her what I should do. She said, "You need to fight." I said, "I don't have money for a long fight." She said, "You have your house. That's what they want. If you lose it, you have nothing." I sat there in her office with the fluorescent lights buzzing above me, and I felt the floor drop out of my life. Carol charged me $300 an hour. I paid her a $5,000 retainer from my savings. That hurt, but not as much as what came next. I called Amanda that night. She answered on the second ring. She sounded normal, happy almost. She said, "Hey Mom, what's up?" I said, "I need to ask you something." She said, "Okay." I said, "I found some papers in the garage. Papers about the house." There was a long silence. Then she said, "What papers?" I said, "You know what papers." Another silence.
Then she said, "Mom, I can explain." I said, "Explain then." She started talking fast. She said Derek had the idea. He said we should protect the house for the kids, for Mason and Chloe, so they have something when they grow up. He said if we set up a trust now, it would save on taxes later. He said you wouldn't mind because you love the kids. He said we were doing you a favor. I listened to every word, and in every word I heard the truth. She didn't say, "I'm sorry." She didn't say I was wrong. She said Derek had the idea. She said we were doing you a favor. She blamed her husband. She blamed me. She blamed everyone except herself. I said, "Amanda, you lied to me." She said, "We didn't lie." I said, "You told a lawyer I agreed to something I never agreed to. That's lying." She got quiet. Then she said, "We haven't filed anything yet." I said, "The letter says you were going to." She said, "We changed our minds." I said, "Did you?" She said, "Yes." I said, "I don't believe you." She started crying. Real crying or fake crying, I couldn't tell anymore. She said, "Mom, please don't do this. Don't make me the bad guy." I said, "You are the bad guy." She hung up. That was the first time my daughter ever hung up on me. The next few weeks were a blur. Carol filed a cease and desist. Hargrove responded with a letter saying his clients were acting in good faith. Carol laughed when she read it. She said good faith is what you call it when you're trying to steal from your mother. I sat in her office and tried not to cry. I failed. I stopped babysitting. Amanda didn't ask. The texts stopped coming. The phone calls stopped. I would look at my phone and see nothing. No missed calls, no messages. Just the wallpaper. A picture of Mason and Chloe at the beach. They are both smiling. The sun is behind them. It was a good day. I don't remember the good days anymore. They feel like they happened to someone else. Thanksgiving came. I bought a turkey, a small one, 12 pounds. I invited my sister Linda. She lives in Colombia. She's 71. We don't talk much. She has her own family, her own problems. But I didn't want to be alone. Linda came on Wednesday night. She brought a casserole and a bottle of wine. We sat in the living room and she asked about Amanda. I told her everything. Linda listened. Then she said something I will never forget. She said, "Megs, you raised a snake." I said, "Don't say that." She said, "It's not an insult to you. Snakes are born that way. You can't love the venom out of them." I thought about that for a long time. Is Amanda a snake? Or did I make her this way? Did I give her too much? Did I never say no? Did I teach her that love meant taking? I don't know. I will never know. That's the worst part. You spend your whole life trying to do right by your children, and then one day you look back, and you can't tell if you helped them or ruined them. Thanksgiving dinner was quiet. Linda and I ate at the dining room table, just the two of us. The turkey was dry. I forgot to take it out of the oven on time. We didn't care. We talked about our mother. She died 10 years ago. Dementia. The last 2 years she didn't know who we were. She called me by her sister's name. She called Linda by the dog's name. We used to laugh about it. Now it just makes me sad. After dinner, Linda asked if I had thought about selling the house. I said no. She said, "Maybe it's too big for you. Maybe the money could buy you peace." I said, "Peace isn't for sale." She said, "Sometimes it is." I didn't answer. December came. Christmas. I put up a tree. A small one. 3 feet tall. I put it on the table in the front window. I hung a few ornaments, the ones that didn't break me to look at. I didn't send cards. I didn't bake cookies. I went to church on Christmas Eve and sat in the back row and listened to the choir sing Silent Night. I didn't sing along. I couldn't. Amanda sent a text on Christmas morning. It said, "Merry Christmas, Mom." I stared at it for an hour. Then I wrote back, "You too." That was it. 6 words. 6 words for the woman I pushed out of my body. 6 words for the little girl who used to crawl into my bed after nightmares. 6 words for the mother of my grandchildren. On New Year's Eve, I was alone. I watched the ball drop on television. The volume was low. I didn't have champagne. I had a glass of water. When the clock hit midnight, I said out loud, "Happy New Year, Max." My voice sounded strange in the empty house, like someone else's voice, like a ghost. January was cold. I went to see Carol again. She said Hargrove had gone quiet. No new filings, no letters. She thought maybe they had given up. I wanted to believe her, but I knew Amanda. She doesn't give up. She waits, just like me. February came. I turned 70. No party, no cake, no phone call. Linda sent a card with $20 inside. I bought a bottle of wine and drank it alone in the living room. I thought about Bill. I thought about our wedding. I thought about the first time we saw this house. It was February, too, 1992. There was snow on the ground. That doesn't happen often in Charleston. Bill held my hand and said, "This is it. This is our home." I believed him. Now the home is a battlefield. Every room holds a memory that hurts. The kitchen where I taught Amanda to make pancakes. The backyard where Bill taught her to ride a bike. The living room where she told me she was pregnant with Mason. The bedroom where Bill took his last breath. I sleep in that bedroom every night. I lie in that bed and I stare at the ceiling and I wonder how many more nights I have before they take it all away. In March, I got a letter from Hargrove, certified mail. I signed for it with shaking hands. The letter said that Amanda and Derek were filing a petition for guardianship. They were claiming I was mentally unfit, that I had shown signs of confusion and memory loss, that I was a danger to myself, that I couldn't manage my own finances.
That the house was at risk of foreclosure. None of it was true. My mortgage was paid off 20 years ago. I have never missed a bill in my life. But truth doesn't matter. Perception matters. And they were building a perception. I called Carol. She was furious. She said they're trying to have you declared incompetent. That's the only way they can take control of your assets without waiting for you to die. I said, can they do that? She said they can try. I said, can they win? She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, not if you fight. Not if we get a good doctor to evaluate you. Not if we show the court who you really are. I agreed to a psychological evaluation. A doctor named Rivera came to my house. She was young, maybe 35. She had kind eyes. She asked me questions for 3 hours. What year is it? Who is the president? What is your date of birth? Can you balance a checkbook? Do you know what a power of attorney is? Do you know what a trust is? Do you know what your daughter is trying to do? I answered every question. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I just told the truth. Dr. Rivera filed her report. It said I was fully competent. It said I showed no signs of dementia or cognitive decline. It said I was capable of managing my own affairs. She sent a copy to Hargrove. They didn't respond. The guardianship petition was withdrawn 2 weeks later. Carol called to tell me. She sounded relieved. I didn't feel relieved. I felt empty.
Because winning didn't fix anything. My daughter still tried to have me declared insane. My daughter still tried to steal my house. My daughter still chose money over me. Winning a legal battle doesn't erase that. It just makes it official. I haven't seen Mason or Chloe since November. Amanda stopped bringing them. She stopped returning my calls. I sent birthday cards, $20 each. The same thing my sister sent me. I don't know if they got them. I don't know if Amanda threw them away. I don't know if the kids even know my name anymore. That's the thing they don't tell you about getting old. It's not the aches. It's not the appointments. It's not the pills or the naps or the forgetting where you put your keys. It's the silence. The phone that doesn't ring. The door that doesn't open. The voices that used to fill your house now just echoes in your head. I still go to the biscuit. Patty still brings me my eggs over easy. Sometimes she sits down across from me and we talk. She tells me about her kids. Thing I recall either. She says it's the same story everywhere. Parents give everything. Children take everything. Then they pretend you don't exist until the guilt gets too loud. Then they show up with a casserole and a fake smile and they wait. I told Patty about the house, about the papers in the garage, about the guardianship, about the doctor. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she reached across the table and took my hand. She said, "Mags, you should sell the house anyway. Take the money and go somewhere warm, somewhere they can't find you." I laughed. She didn't. She said, "I'm serious. You don't owe them anything. Not the house, not your time, not your heart. They broke it. They don't get to keep it." I thought about that for a long time. Weeks, months. The idea grew in me like a seed. What if I left? What if I took everything and went somewhere Amanda couldn't follow? What if I gave the house to someone else, someone who needed it, someone who would say thank you and mean it. In June, I met a woman at church. Her name is Rachel. She's 38. She has 2 kids. She's a widow. Her husband died in a car accident 3 years ago. She works 2 jobs. She rents a small apartment near the highway. Her kids share a bedroom. She told me this during coffee hour after Mass. She wasn't asking for help. She was just talking. But I heard something in her voice. The same thing I felt. Exhaustion, loneliness, the weight of carrying everything alone. I started talking to Rachel more. We had lunch. We went for walks. She told me about her husband. I told her about Bill. She told me about her mother, who lives in Florida and never visits. I told her about Amanda. She didn't look shocked. She looked like she understood. She said, "My mother is the same. She only calls when she needs money." I said, "It's worse when they call because they want you dead." Rachel got quiet.
Then she said my mother-in-law tried to take the kids after my husband died, said I was unstable, said the kids needed a real family. I won, but it cost me everything. All my savings, all my peace. Some things you can't get back. I knew then what I was going to do. I called Carol in July. I told her I wanted to sell the house, not to Amanda, not to Derek, to Rachel, at a price she could afford. Carol said that's not how real estate works. I said I don't care how it works. I want to give her the house. Carol was quiet. Then she said, "Margaret, you are making an emotional decision." I said maybe, but it's my decision. And it's the first one I've made for myself in 40 years. We structured it as a gift, a legal gift. Carol drew up the papers. Rachel signed them in my kitchen with tears running down her face. She kept saying, "I don't deserve this." I said, "Neither did I, but here we are." I moved out of the house on a Friday in September, the same month Bill and I moved in 31 years earlier. I packed 3 suitcases, some clothes, some photos, Bill's wedding ring. That's it. I left everything else. The furniture, the dishes, the towels from Target, the Christmas decorations still in the garage. I left it all for Rachel and her kids. They can do whatever they want with it. Sell it, keep it, burn it. It doesn't belong to me anymore. I live in a small apartment now. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen the size of a closet. The walls are beige, the carpet is gray. The window looks out at a parking lot. I don't care. I wake up every morning and I make my coffee and I sit by the window and I watch the sun come up over the cars. It's not beautiful, but it's mine. No one can take it. No one can use it against me. No one can put a lien on it or file a petition over it or look it up on Zillow and calculate how much they'll get when I'm gone. Amanda found out about the house 2 weeks after I moved. She called me screaming like I had never heard before. She called me a traitor. She called me a liar. She said I stole from her children. She said I ruined her family. She said she wished I had died instead of Bill. I let her scream. I didn't hang up. I just held the phone away from my ear and waited. When she finally stopped, I said, "I love you, Amanda. I have always loved you. But you don't get to love me back. Not anymore." She hung up. That was the last time we spoke. It's November now, almost a year since I found those papers in the garage. The leaves are changing. The air is cold in the mornings. I sit in my apartment and I watch the world go by. People walking their dogs, kids getting on school buses, a man across the street watering his lawn. Normal things. The kind of things I used to do without thinking. Rachel comes to visit every Sunday. She brings her kids. They call me Grandma Max. The little one is 3. Her name is Elena. She likes to sit on my lap and play with my necklace. The older one is 6. His name is Joseph. He draws me pictures, stick figures, rainbows, a house with a blue door. He says, "This is your new house, Grandma." I say, "It's beautiful." He says, "It needs a swing set." I say, "I'll work on it." I know they aren't my real grandchildren, but real is just a word. Love is the thing that matters. And they love me. I can feel it. In the way Elena holds my hand, in the way Joseph hugs my legs, in the way Rachel kisses my cheek when she leaves. That's real. That's more real than blood. Blood just made me Amanda's mother. Love made me something else, something I didn't know I could still be. I don't know if I'll ever see Mason and Chloe again. I don't know if they'll remember me. I don't know if Amanda will call when she hears I'm sick. Probably not. She'll wait. She'll wait for the phone call from the hospital. She'll wait for the reading of the will. She'll wait for whatever is left. That's who she is. That's who she chose to be. And me? I'm here, in this small apartment, with my beige walls and my gray carpet and my parking lot view. I'm not happy, but I'm not sad either. I'm something in between, something quiet, something that has stopped waiting. I still fold laundry on Tuesday mornings, but now the towels are green. I bought them at Walmart. They were on sale. The fabric is cheap. They don't dry well, but they're mine, and no one is coming to take them. That's the thing about having nothing. No one can steal from you anymore.